नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानंद सूरये सच्चित् सुखद स्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second session of of the meetings webinar series on the meeting the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic, the yogic way. The topic of my seminar, my lecture is Swami Vivekananda's exposition of Raj Yoga in modern times. First of all, I would like to make 2 points clear. First is that because we are Vedanti, so we'll not even pretend that we will follow the yogic philosophy. Yoga is a different philosophical school than Vedanta. Historically, there were 6 theistic schools. One was, 2 were Nyaya Vaisheshik, another 2 were Sankhya and Yoga, and last 2 were Purva Mimamsa, that is Mimamsa, and Uttar Mimamsa, that is Vedanta. We group the 6 philosophies in pairs. So Nyaya Vaisheshik, Sankhya, Yoga, Uttar Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa is Mimamsa, Uttar Mimamsa is Vedanta. So philosophically, the yoga philosophy and the Vedanta philosophy, they are distinct philosophies. So their bases are different, their methods are different, their methods of knowledge are different, and their conclusions about the reality are also the different. And how to remove this avidya, that is also different. So because we are Vedanti, nowadays only the other schools have declined. Only the Vedanta school has progressed after Shankaracharya. Though the Vedanta philosophy has taken elements from the other philosophies, but the basics and the foundations of other philosophies, they are different. So we do not pretend to be following the yogic philosophy or the Sankhya philosophy. Yogic philosophy takes a lot from the Sankhya philosophy. This is the first point. And second point is, though my lecture is Swami Vivekananda's exposition of Raj Yoga, I will give my own interpretation. So you may think that it might be different than what Swamiji mentioned in the Raj Yoga philosophy. Though I think that it is the same, but there may be differences in the opinion, in the interpretation of what Swamiji said. So I may interpret it in a different way. You may interpret in a different way. So these 2 points, when you hear my lecture, these 2 points you have to be little bit careful about, because you may think that I am not talking about yoga philosophy because I am talking about the Vedanta philosophy. And interpretation wise, it may differ from what you interpret from about Swami Vivekananda. When we try to understand yoga, we have to understand 3 questions. Or what is yoga? Why this yoga is important? Why we should do that yoga? Why? And last is how this yoga can be practiced. So what, why, and how. So my lecture will be divided in 3 parts. First, I will answer what is this yoga. Then I will try to answer why we should do yoga, why should we believe in yoga, why should we practice yoga in our life. And third is how we should practice yoga. So my lecture will be divided in 3 parts. First, I will try to answer what is yoga and why, what of yoga, why of yoga, and how of yoga. First, what do we understand by yoga? To answer this question, there are several ways to answer this question, what is yoga? First is we have to see the etymology. how this word yoga came into being. Next is how the meaning of this word yoga was evolved. Third is the historical references, what other people, what the older generations of people, they understood by yoga. And lastly, what we understand, the modern interpretation of yoga. See, all these four things are actually different. So etymology, because this is a very old word, ancient word. So in 3,000, 2,000 years of history of Indian heritage, in all this, in the meantime, this word has gone through a lot of changes, the meaning of the word. So earlier, what the word might have meant, now definitely the word has uh, may mean differently. Like there are other words also like dharma. So what is the meaning of dharma? So dharma has changed, the meaning of dharma has changed quite a lot from what it was meant earlier. In the historical meaning and the modern meaning has lot of baggage. So it is at the same time, it is a culture, it is tradition, it is duty, it is religion, it is everything, dharma. So same thing, yoga also has undergone a lot of changes. The historical meaning was different, the etymological meaning was different, and the evolution of the meaning was also different. So we take it one by one. Etymologically, yujyate iti yoga. So yoga is addition. So now question arises, what is the addition? Usually it meant that we want to join with our goal. So we are somewhere in the beginning and we want to join with our goal. So whatever the goal may be, so that we will try to answer what our goal is. But whatever our goal may be, we want to join with our goal. That is yoga. That is etymologically, that is the meaning of the word is this. Yujyate iti yoga. Historically, in the books, we find this yoga extensively in Bhagavad Gita. So Vishad Yoga, Karma Sannyasa Yoga, and Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga. So all these words we find in each chapter. In each chapter is named after yoga, and definitely when you try to understand the meaning of yoga with the modern meaning, you find that there is no connection. Like Vishad Yoga. So how can Vishad Yoga will be related to Hatha Yoga or Raj Yoga that we think about? But anyway, there the yoga meaning was because it led to the Arjun's goal of realizing the goal of life, realizing God, or realizing knowledge. So whatever you may think about, so that led to the realization of the goal of life. So that is why each of the chapter is named after yoga. So now we see that historically also, and how the word is evolving. Shri Krishna actually evolved this word to mean completely different from what the people previous to Shri Krishna believed. Even he evolved the yajna, word yajna also. In 4th chapter, we see that every kind of yajna is mentioned. Pranayam is also mentioned as yajna. Knowledge is also mentioned as yajna. Austerity is also mentioned as yajna. So same as yoga. So he was the person who brought under the ambit of word yoga everything, all kinds of sadhana, karma yoga, sankhya yoga, vishad yoga. So whatever helps in leading us to the goal of life, that is yoga. And afterwards, you see that in the medieval times or even 100 years back, the yoga as a philosophy, when it was declined, so Hatha Yoga was a philosophy, Raj Yoga was a philosophy which was written in the sutra form by Patanjali. We know that. Probably all the six yogas were written as sutras around same time, because it seems that if one will write the sutra, then probably others will also take the hint or take the idea and write that. So maybe all the 6 schools have written their sutras around the same time, maybe 100, 200, 300 years plus minus. So we have Gautam Sutra on Nyaya, and Vaisheshik. Gemini is in our Purva Mimamsa. Kapil is Sankhya, and Vaisheshik is our. Yeah. Then we have our Yoga and Sankhya, and lastly our Uttar Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa. So Uttar Mimamsa is Vyasa, that I am certain about. So these 6 were written by almost at the same time. Our Yoga Sutras, they were written by Patanjali, and Vyasa wrote its commentary. So what we know about the philosophy, it has come from the sutras only. So we have the 6 munis, Mahamunis, they have written the sutras. But later on, what happened was yoga was divided into 2, Hatha Yoga and Raj Yoga, as mentioned by Sri Ramakrishna. When we read Sri Ramakrishna's Vachanamrit, Kathamrita, there we find that he has mentioned that about Hatha Yoga and Raj Yoga, that he said that Hatha Yoga is meant for our physical well-being, healthy living, and we want to prolong our life so that we can practice Raj Yoga. Because you see, the practice of Raj Yoga, people found that they practice about Raj Yoga and their life ends. So first, for practicing Raj Yoga, they need to have a healthy body. So Hatha Yoga was invented for this. And then Raj Yoga is for realization of your goal of life. Though people say that this is not, this is only Sri Ramakrishna, this idea Sri Ramakrishna brought or Swami brought. Earlier than that, people do not find words like Raj Yoga. Mostly the Hatha Yoga is only, when we say yoga, we always mostly mean Hatha Yoga. So people say that this was coined by Sri Ramakrishna and Swamiji. Actually, that is not true, because if you see in the Raj Yoga Sutra, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, you will find several sutras which mention that the goal of life is realized. And in fact, the Hatha Yoga is quite simplified. Just like, for example, in Bhagavad Gita, if you see in chapter 6, there you see that the Raj Yoga practices, they are very much simplified. Like asana, they said you have to sit straight, that's all. So even in the sutras also, we see that most of the Hatha Yoga things are actually very simplified. In fact, they are simplified so much, you may think that they are actually oversimplified. But whatever it may be, there was a distinction between Hatha Yoga and Raj Yoga is mostly mentioned in the sutras as well as earlier treatises. So it is not coined or invented by this Raj Yoga is by Thakur and Swamiji. It was even before that. So only the differences were accentuated by people in the medieval times. Because you see, people started doing this asana pranayama, they become so much engrossed in asana pranayama that they forgot about the antar yoga, that is internal yoga aspects, and only started doing this. So modern times, actually what it means is like what I said, though there are several group of people. So a group of people say Hatha Yoga, a group of people like spiritual minded like us, we say Raj Yoga. There is no unanimity in what the yoga means. So we mostly, for example, the Vedantis, they add both Hatha Yoga and Raj Yoga part to mean yoga. When they say yoga, they mean both Hatha Yoga and Raj Yoga. Or when they say that it is like Bhakti Yoga, they qualify. It is Bhakti Yoga, it is Jnana Yoga. For other yogas, they qualify Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. And when they only speak about yoga, mostly they mean a combination of Hatha Yoga and Raj Yoga. This is about the spiritual people. But those people who do like, who attend classes, who attend like seminars, they think that yoga means Hatha Yoga. And mostly they will be teaching you asana and pranayama, nothing more, asana and pranayama only. Anyway, so this is our what yoga means, but it is actually only the meaning of the word. What yoga is, it is very much dependent on the purpose also. So why yoga, why of the yoga should answer what is yoga. So as a spiritual people, as a spiritual person, we have to answer why we should practice Raj Yoga. Swamiji, in Swamiji's introduction to Raj Yoga, he has mentioned, he has clearly mentioned the precepts of Raj Yoga. He has given the meaning of why and what of Raj Yoga. So, in brief, the purpose of human life is actually getting everlasting happiness and removing our misery. That is the that is our goal. So we are unhappy in this. Everyone knows this world is a very unhappy place. It's not like Swarg. In fact, in our Hinduism also, it is actually the middle ground. Neither total misery is there, nor total happiness. Total happiness is Swarga, total misery is our Narka. It is a middle place where you have got mixture of happiness and unhappiness. But anyway, we can see like this world itself is not a very happy place. So even Vedanta says, even though we are Brahma, that does not solve our problem of misery. So actually the knowledge or the liberation or the God realization, whatever you talk about, it's actually the means to remove this punarjanma, to remove this misery or remove this mixture of happiness and misery. So that is the goal of our life. Our goal is not to become Brahma. We are already Brahma. So that cannot be our goal because we are already Brahma. So why do we want to know that? Because that will remove our misery. So everyone here in this world is after enjoyment, is after happiness. But the difference is they are searching for happiness in wrong places. The happiness is inside us. That is what Vedanta says. What we want is everlasting happiness. So, atyanta dukh nivritti, param sukh prapti. We want that happiness which will not go away. And we want our misery to go in such a way, atyanta dukh nivritti, that it will not come back again. Worldly happiness and unhappiness is, the unhappy misery goes away, again it comes back. Happiness, it comes and it goes. So that kind of happiness and misery, removal of misery, we don't want. We want permanent things. So that is why the Vedanta goal of life is this. Actually, if you see that in the literature, various goals are mentioned, nothing wrong about it. So this is my interpretation. So it is said that goal of life is knowledge, goal of life is liberation, goal of knowledge is God realized. But according to me, all of these are means to attain your permanent ananda. You know, Satchidanand that we talk about Brahma. So that is the final goal. We want to have this everlasting happiness. So the worldly people and the spiritual people, They are both looking for happiness, but only thing they are looking for happiness in different places. So the worldly people, they are looking for happiness in the worldly objects. And again, according to Hinduism, that is not wrong, because we have got 4 goals, and a dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So dharma, artha, kama, that is looking for happiness in this world, and moksha is looking for happiness in the beyond. So that is the goal. So if that is the goal, again, according to Vedanta also, that is the goal of the life also, of the goal of the society also. So there are several different goals for the society. You may say that the infinite development, infinite research. You go to different people, they will say that the goal of society is different. For example, if you go to activists, they will say that peace is the peace of the world is the goal of the human society. You go to like doctors, they will say that the healthy living is the goal of life. You go to economists, they will say that the world economy, the fair living, and that is the fair wages. Everyone should get the fair wages. That is the goal of life. You go to scientific community, they will say that the pursuit of scientific knowledge is the goal of human society. Or you go to engineers, they will say that pursuit of technological innovations, technological gadgets, actually development of these are the goal of the humans. So depending on the profession, people will answer differently. So spiritual people will answer that these things are only temporary goals. Final goal is the liberation. Why we say, to answer that, again, you have to say what is the answer, what is the reality. So according to Vedanta, the reality is that this is a illusory reality. We have superimposition of the Maya. The world appears on Brahma. So our world is a false reality. The true reality is Brahma. And because true reality is Brahma and this is an appearance, this is an illusion, the first task is to remove this illusion, to remove this appearance. So that becomes the goal of life, because if we answer this, what is reality, when we find that this is not true, the real goal becomes that we should get rid of this illusion. And that is how this the Vedantis come to this goal of society, goal of world, goal of our life. So then you can clearly understand that other things like the development, infinite development, that is all in Maya. So that cannot be final goal. That can be at most be intermediate goal. So when we answer this why of life, why of anything, so we have to understand that we have to get a method of. So Raj Yoga also, when they say that this is the nature of reality, see, every philosophy, it starts from this. Like they have to first they have to know the goal of everything, and then when they understand the goal, then they have to answer this: what is the nature of reality? And then they have to give a method. So what, why, how? So why first or what? Then they say what is the reality, and after that. So the Raj Yoga, what is Raj Yoga? And they found out that this is the problem that we have to solve. And to solve this problem, we have to understand the reality, and that actually, because they were practical people, so they directly started with the how can we get rid of this punarjanma. So this in Hinduism, this punarjanma is the root cause of our misery. Even the death does not give us freedom. So Atha Yoga Anushasanam. So yoga is the practice. So now is the yoga is the practice. By this itself, we can understand that yoga is not about the knowledge. It is not about the karma. It is about the practice. It's not about devotion also. So yoga, Atha Yoga Anushasanam. each of the different six philosophies, they have got different methodology. So when you see that in our Vedanta, we have Atha Brahma Jigyasa. So there you see inquiry. Inquiry is important. The knowledge part is important. Here, but now it is not said. When you start this Patanjali Yoga Sutra, it is not said, ki Atha Yoga Jigyasa. So we are not inquiring about yoga. We want to know how the yoga should be practiced. So yoga is all about practice. It's not theoretical knowledge. It is practical knowledge. That means that yoga as a philosophy, it's not just a philosophy. It becomes a life philosophy. In fact, in our Hinduism, all the philosophies are life philosophies. What is the difference between philosophy, normal philosophy, and the life philosophy? Life philosophy has to do with something with our life. So we want to achieve some results. We want to change our way of living. We want to improve our way of living. So yoga, it is at the same time a methodology, a way to improve our personal lives. It is a way of life. Like science also, it is not just a subject that we have to read in schools and we have to study in colleges. It is also a way of living, way of life, way of thinking, and also a way of, it's a cultural way also. So yoga also, you will be surprised, you may think that it is too much, but it is a cultural way. It is a way of thinking, it is a way of life, and it is a culture. That is why you see this yoga has permeated all the other three main yogas. So yoga has become a part of bhakti yoga, part of karma yoga, a part of Raj yoga. Everyone has practices of Raj yoga because it is how we can control our mind. So Atha Yoga Anushasam is a very profound sutra which tells us where, in what things our yoga, in what yoga is interested, or what are important things in yoga. It is practice, not just a theory. Now, this is a practice of what? What we want to practice. So yoga next says that it is yoga chitta vritti nirodha. If you read Swamiji's complete verse, how we came about this. Swamiji's Raj Yoga explains this. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha, how we came about. So there are actually two important concepts. Many concepts are there, but what I feel that two important concepts of Raj Yoga. One is like cause and effect, and other thing is the chain of cause and effect. And other thing is actually the cause itself that translates into effect. And this is actually, this is very closely related to the philosophy of Sankhya. So our Raj Yoga and the Sankhya, they believed in this cause and effect. The cause itself transforms into effect. Like when we say in Ishavasya Upanishad also, Ishavasamidam sarvam yatkin jagatyam jagat. So why is that Ishwar is everywhere in this world? He is omnipresent. He or she is omnipresent. Why is that so? So when you see our Christianity, Islam, and there we don't find this concept that God is everywhere. This concept is there in our Indian philosophies. So whatever theistic philosophies are there, so we find it in Hinduism, we find it Sikhism also, that God is everywhere. So this idea has come from actually Sankhya. God cannot create this world out of nothing. It has to create this world out of itself, herself, himself. So God creates this world out of himself. Because of that, it's like a spider which creates a web. This example is given in our Upanishads. The spider, like a spider creates a web out of her own body. In the similar way, God creates this world out of himself. So that is why, because we are actually part of God, God has created us from his own body. That is why God permeates everything. God is everywhere. So the cause and effect, this chain. So effect is the world, cause is the God. That is why God himself has become the world. So this Sankhya concept is everywhere in our Indian philosophy. So Raj Yoga also believes in this, that cause itself transforms into effect. So that is why what they say is, if we look at the effect, then whatever is the cause, that we can also get. So for that, they started looking at the liberated people. So that is our goal. Our goal is liberated people. What is the difference? What are the things that have happened to them? Sthita pragyasya ka bhasha kim. This we find in Bhagavad Gita, how he talks, how he walks, how he sits. Kim asit, kim brajit. So the same idea, if we do the same as the Sthita Pragya, if we do the same as the Jivan Mukta, we will achieve this. So they analyzed the Jivan Mukta, and seeing the effects, so when they saw that in the Jivan Mukta, this Ida Pingla, our Kundalini, it arises through Sushumna, and it mixed with our Sahasrara. So they said opposite way, that if we are able to wake our Kundalini and join it with Sahasrara through Sushumna, then we'll reach our Jivan. So from they see the cause is Jivan Mukti, the effect of that is that the Sushumna, our Kundalini rises through Sushumna through Sahasrar, and they make this if we do it in any way, by Aushadhi, Ishwar Pradina, Dhan, whatever method we use and we achieve this, and then we will reach our goal. So this concept, that if we try to do this effect, and then we'll achieve the cause, that idea is there in all the 8 steps. And second is our cause and effect chain. So we find this story in the literature of Raj Yoga. We find this story in Swamiji's Raj Yoga also, that there was a minister who for some reason he was punished, and he was imprisoned in a tower. So in the night time, his son goes to meet him, and the minister asks him to bring one beetle, another silk thread, slightly bigger, slightly thick thread, and finally several ropes of threads of several thickness, and finally a very thick rope. So at the night time, second night, the son collected all the things and brought him to it. Then he put some honey on the beetle's nose and tied the silk thread. When the beetle reached that minister on top of the tower, he asked to tie another thread with slight more thickness, then yet another thing of a slight more thickness, and so on, until he got the rope. And when he got the rope, he climbed down from the tower and escaped. So this is the step by step, the chain of causality, cause and effect, cause and effect. Cause become effect, then again that becomes a cause, another effect, and finally you reach. So that is why this they mentioned that in this Ashtanga yoga, so the 8 parts, after one part you do, then only you can get to the second part, then you can get to the third part. So that is why they say asan, then you do pranayam, then you do pratyahar, then you do dharana, then dhyan, then samadhi. There are 8, no? Yama, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. And very surprisingly, no one gives more importance to Yama, Niyam. I think that these two parts are most important because they are the cause for your your character is transformed. So they are the cause of character transformation. And those things are only needed for your spiritual, they are the necessary conditions for your spiritual liberation. So these, the Yama Niyam are important, but they are, though they are the most difficult. Other things are actually easier than Yama Niyam. So the character transformation is the most difficult of any sadhana. So because it is so difficult and there are no clear-cut standards for this, so that is why people just ignore that and they start doing other practices, repetitive practices, and that is why those things are not very effective. So the most effective thing is the character transformation. They ignore that. So Yama, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So first 4 are called Bahirang and the last 4 are called Antarang. So these are the 2 steps. So these 2 concepts. One is the reverse engineering. First you look at the Samadhi and then you see what happens in the Samadhi, and then you try to do that to attain the Samadhi. So we were discussing Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha, and Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha, why Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha was brought was because of this. So they looked at the person who had the Samadhi, they saw that his Chittavritti Nirodha has happened. So that is why they said, this is the means by which we can have Samadhi. Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha Samadhi. Because this is the, these 2 shlokas, Atha Yoga Anushasanam is the first shloka of our Patanjali Yoga Sutra, and second shloka was the Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha. Actually, next shloka is also there, Tada Drashtu Swarupe Avasthanam. And then your seer. So strangely, here now we see the ideas of Vedanta. So that is why I said right in the beginning. So it seems that all the 6 philosophies, they wrote their sutras at around the same time. That is why they have a lot of common concepts. So Tada Drashtu Swarupe Avasthanam. So here also Drashta. In fact, we find another one, Tasya Hetur Avidya, in another Sutra 2.24. So our Raj Yoga is talking about our Avidya and Drashtu, which is Vedantic concept, and which is also there. So these shloka, it's not that these shlokas do not have any basis in Upanishad. They have some. They have also a basis in Upanishads. That how this it is explained ki how from our Chittavritti Nirodha, how can we see Tada Drashtu Swarupe Avasthanam? How can we do that? See, because in Upanishad at the same time, mind is mentioned as like not. We cannot reach the goal of liberation through mind, avacha manasa. But again, in another shloka, in Kathopanishad, it is mentioned, manasa vedam aptavya neh nanasti kinchana. Yadeveha tadamutra yadamutra tadanviha mrityosa mrityum apnoti yahi naneva pashyati. And then next shloka is, this is one of the favorite shlokas of mine, manasa vedam aptavya neh nanasti kinchana. Mrityosa mrityum gacchati yaha naneva pashyati. So how come that mind is said here by which we can receive liberation? Because it is said that even though, see, how can we explain this? Even Thakur also said, ki Shuddha Mana, Shuddha Buddhi, we can see God. So how can we explain? Actually speaking, it is not seen by mind. And the mind is a material entity, so it cannot see Brahma, it cannot see Atma. Atma can see Brahma, Brahma can see Atma, Brahma can see Brahma, Atma can see Atma. Because they are that. So that is why another word is coined, aparoksha anubhuti. Anubhuti, like sakshat anubhuti, paroksha anubhuti, and aparoksha anubhuti. It is not paroksha. Paroksha is something exterior to us we are seeing through instruments, through our telescope, through glasses, through microscope, through our eyes. That is paroksha anubhuti. Aparoksha anubhuti is direct anubhuti. So Brahma is aware of itself, Atma is aware of its own consciousness. Only consciousness can be aware about its own itself. That is why we have this, we call it self-awareness, self-consciousness. So this self-consciousness is what we say that Brahma is aware, or Brahma is perceiving itself. Though it is not a direct perception, because always this perception is said to be like paroksha, but we say that it is a different kind of perception, aparokshanubhuti. So in this aparokshanubhuti, they say that how can we see this mind? How can we see Brahma? So it is like we clean the mind as a mirror. Mind is a mirror. So it is a dirty mirror. So when we clean it, it becomes free of dirt, then the Atma or Brahma is reflected. So this is how we can explain manasa vedam aptavyam. So even if the Atma or Brahma is amanasa, Brahma is seeing the Brahma, but the reflecting object is our mind. So is like a mirror, and Brahma sees itself through the mirror of mind. So that is how we explain manasa vedam aptavyam. And this same concept is understood here. Like when we do this chitta vritti nirodha, in chitta vritti nirodha, the mind becomes calm. And when the mind becomes calm, then your tada, then it becomes tada drashtu swarupe avasthana. That is 1.3, 1.1, 1.2. All three are very profound sutras. They tell us about the meaning of this. In Raj Yoga, it is Swamiji's Raj Yoga, he has mentioned this, that both the concepts that about the cause and effect, and how the cause itself transforms into effect. So it happens in material causes. Like for example, you make a ornament of gold. So gold at the ornament, gold transforms into its ornament. So that is why this cause and effect, when we try to duplicate the effect, we get the cause. And this happens everywhere. So it's not just like, for example, dhyan also, how we attain meditation. So people say that, for example, dhyan also, and the method, the practices of dhyan, the Raj Yogi, they looked at the people who were meditating, and they saw that their breath has become very calm and rhythmic. So they talked about this pranayam. So they practice. So they said, if we do pranayam and we practice this rhythmic breathing, then we will be able to meditate. Though in the modern times, people have made pranayam and the asana an independent study, but it was again the means to achieve your meditation. So the asana is a means to achieve your pranayam and meditation. Pranayam is again a means to achieve your dhyana, dharana, samadhi. So always we should keep our goal in our mind. So we should not get stuck in the means only. So that is what is happening when with the Hatha Yogis. They started, they wanted this thing, that they started with your healthy living and extending our life, and they got stuck with it. So they got stuck with this pranayam. So different types of pranayam, different types of asana, they started doing it. So let us start with, we have talked about what of Raj Yoga and also the why of Raj Yoga. We are only 15 minutes are remaining. So let us take the how of Raj Yoga. What are the practices? Okay, how we should practice that. So I have mentioned like the 8 parts. 8 parts are our yama, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. Again, people have started each of them, they have they have started them as an independent study. Why this happened? Again, we can find the root cause in our Raj Yoga Sutra itself. So people were not interested in Madhyam Pantha Avalambanya. So this Madhyam Pantha Avalambanya, don't go to extremes. But people started like our asana also, very lot of extreme, pranayam also too extreme, because there is a sutra. And the Tivra Samvega Nam Asana. In our Raj Yoga, there is this sutra, that Tivra Samvega Nam Asana. That means that if you increase the intensity, then the results will be, you will achieve the results in a faster way, earlier. So that is why people started doing this pranayam for 30 seconds, then 1 minute, then 2 minutes, then there is no limit. So people will, I have heard people saying, claiming that they can do pranayam for 10 minutes also. Like one single pranayam, they can do it for 10 minutes. And it becomes like they feel a feeling of pride is there. A matter of pride is there, that they can do a lot because of this only. Whereas it's my personal belief that Madhyam Pantha Avalambaniya, that is why we see that in our Bhagavad Gita also. And here also you see that the things are said like only the essential steps are mentioned. We can, if you read in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra or in Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter, you will see, because we are doing Raj Yoga, I will not refer to Bhagavad Gita, but in Raj Yoga also you will see that for asana and pranayam, for asana, again there is a shlok, Sthira Sukham Asanam, 2.46. 2.46 of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Here also you see that the idea of Bhagavad Gita is reflected. And that asanam is sthira and sukham. So you should, because actually the goal is meditation. The goal is samadhi. So that is why this sthira sukha asanam, sukham asana, that is have to be. Otherwise, if you do very difficult asana, your body will be paining and you will be thinking about your body. You will not be thinking about your goal. You will not be thinking about Atma. You will not be thinking about God. You will be thinking about, the whole body will be paining and you will be thinking about your body itself. So that is why that should not be done. That is the means. Your asana is the mean. Goal is your meditation. Asana is not the goal. So that is why sthira sukham asana, that is mentioned. Or even later on, you will see according to pranayam, according to Yoga Sutra, pranayam also is mentioned as shwas prashwasa yoga gati vicheda pranayama 2.49. Though there are some preconditions, like you have to be equanimity, you have to attain equanimity in happiness and unhappiness, cold and hot, hot and cold sensations, this kind of precondition. But even then, finally, the sutra says that shwas prashwasa yoga gati vicheda, so they should be separate. That is rhythmic, and slow breathing itself is pranayama. So you can see that such simple meanings are given to our asana and pranayama. So that is why, because as I said, these are all the means to attain your meditation. That is the goal. We should not forget about the goal, that is our meditation, and these are the means. One thing more I would like to talk about is that even all the 8 steps, yama, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi, are practicable, including samadhi, because there is a group of people who think that samadhi is the goal, and only after samadhi will be ascertained that it is real. That is fine. But they say that samadhi is something which is spontaneous. So you practice other things, and one day you will find that the samadhi happens automatically. So I believe, again, it is my belief only, that it is not true, because you see, Thakur, he attains samadhi. If you look at his life, If you look at the Kathamrita and his life written by Swami Sadhanji Maharaj, you will find that he attains samadhi using his willpower. Whenever he wants to attain samadhi, he goes into samadhi. Because he is able to go to samadhi using his willpower, that means that samadhi is not spontaneous. It can be attained by will. And if we look at the Yoga Sutra, we'll find that there are practices mentioned how to, though there are savikalpa and nirvikalpa samadhi, savikalpa samadhi, how we attain samadhi. And the very fact that samadhi is mentioned as 8th step, that means Patanjali expects that samadhi to be something which is practiced. So this Ashtanga Yoga, everything is practicable. Even our the Yama Niyam, the character building, character transformation, everything is practicable. And we may say that no, these things are very difficult, then these things are not practiced unless God will help us, God will give us things like in Kripa as a gift. These things cannot be attained. That thing also is again answered by Patanjali Yoga Sutra, and Swamiji also says that very clearly, that it is actually abhyasa vairagya abhyam tan nirodha, 1.12 shloka sutra. So again, this is reflected from Bhagavad Gita. I think Bhagavad Gita predates these sutras, all the 6 sutras. I think it predates because there are no mention of these 6 schools in Bhagavad Gita. And because Sri Krishna, as you can, if you read Bhagavad Gita, you will find that everything under the sky at that time was mentioned by Sri Krishna. Why he did not mention this was because it predated this one. So that is why this idea might have come from Bhagavad Gita or might not. But it is mentioned, Abhyas Vairagyabhyam Tan Nirodha in Bhagavad Gita. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihate. That is there in Bhagavad Gita when Arjun asked Sri Krishna that whatever you said, that is very fine, but control of mind is so difficult. It is like the clouds in the sky. When there is a wind, these clouds vanish. So the mind also, you try and try, but by its own nature, there is one obstacle and the mind becomes uncontrolled. So answering that, Sri Krishna told, yes, that the mind is difficult to control, but abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihate. So abhyas and vairagya, exactly these 2 things are mentioned in this shloka, abhyas vairagya abhyam tan nirodha. One more thing I would like to talk about. See, our yoga, it wants to transform our life. As I said, way of life, way of living. So we should always try to develop ourselves. This is not there in our, for example, in Vedanta. Vedanta says that everything is illusion, and this it does not talk about this development, personal development, or this one, for example, our Jnana Yoga. It does not talk about that. Spiritual Bhakti Yoga talks about this gradual spiritual evolution. But this is specifically mentioned here in Raj Yoga, that we are able to, because you see, philosophically, it is kind of Sankhya Yoga, and it does not believe in it is kind of a dualist philosophy. But even then also, otherwise also, we believe in transformation. And so where you see the other yogas, they don't talk about evolution. Evolution only is only talked about by Raj Yoga. So it is there in, for example, 4th chapter, Kaivalyapada, Jatyantar Parinama Prakriti Purat. Here is a Jatyantar. So our species is transformed. So here Raj Yoga it believes that if we are able to practice, then we will be able to transform our existence, transform our life. And that is very important, because Indian society especially there may be foreign listeners, but they are kind of all all Asian societies, old societies, they are actually kind of lethargic for development. The new society, new civilizations, they want development, but the old societies, you will see, after eons and eons, centuries of living, they become little bit lethargic and a little bit pessimistic about the future. And whereas new civilizations, they are very optimistic about the future. But like the Chinese, the Indians, and our Arabs, these civilizations, they have a certain problem. So, but this is very important to change our mentality. And this Raj Yoga says that there is a possibility of evolution. And though it says that evolution is only because of our internal greatness, internal potential. And Jatya antar parinama prakriti apurat nimittam apayojakam prakritinam varan bhedatu tatha kshetrikvat. Like, for example, the farmer in his field, when he opens the gates, the water automatically comes or goes to another field. Similar way, a species transformed to another species by its own internal energy, its own internal potential. So that is fine, because in Vedanta we believe that we are Brahma, and this Brahma is manifested through Maya in this world. And so this manifestation, our manifestation goes on growing, grows on developing, because actually we were that Shuddha Buddha Nitya Mukta Atma. Because our original Brahma existence, and we are child of the immortality. And because we are children of immortality, that is why we actually can achieve the greatness. So it says why we are able to develop. So this actually we can see here in our education. See, a teacher can educate a child. Why? Because there is a potential in a child. The same teacher, if it wants to teach a robot, it is a hell lot of difficulty to teach a robot. So this our artificial intelligence people are trying to teach a robot, but you see that difficulty is there because that potential is not there. And like the potential, you have to somehow that overcome the materialness or whatever, and then you have to teach the robot to have this artificial intelligence, and that is kind of difficult. I will finish my lecture here only. So we talked about what is Raj Yoga, why we should do Raj Yoga, and something a little bit about how of Raj Yoga. And so Raj Yoga is a practical science that among all other 4 yogas, that is why it is mentioned as a scientific method of doing things. It is the one thing that wants to control, wants us to control our mind. So this controlling of mind of the Raj Yoga, it has actually it is so important that all the other philosophies, all the other yogas, they have taken from there. Though for various reasons, Raj Yoga does not give too much importance on the philosophical. That happens because all the practical philosophies, they don't give too much about the theories. So as long as you are able to achieve your goals, that is fine. So that is why it does not dwell too much about the philosophy. But though we find that Vedantic concept, the Ishwar Pranidhadva, the concept of Ishwar is mentioned, or Avidya is mentioned, and the Drashtu, Drashta, and Darshan, these things are mentioned in Yoga Sutra. With this, I will finish my lecture. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishnarpanamastu. So we will take some questions. Now I cannot see so far away. So our Mridmay Maharaj will read the questions, and I will try to answer. A lot of questions are there.
So there is a question from Manisha Mandal. Please suggest me in pandemic situation what kind of yoga is essential for older people.
See, as I mentioned, you know, so whatever you feel comfortable about, as I say, that principle you should keep in mind. The madhyam pantha avalambaniya. So everything you can do. For example, the asan, so sthira sukham asanam. So sthira sukham asanam, then you pranayam. Actually, Swamiji said that some of these exercises, they are very helpful. So for example, rhythmic breathing, old people have got this problem of anxiety and depression. So rhythmic breathing, I think, is a must. Whenever you have got anxiety and depression, then you should have this rhythmic breathing. Not like you should try to do pranayam. Also, for pranayam, what are the difficult, why do we say that unless there is a guru you should not do pranayam? The problem is with kumbhak, and so purak, rechak, and anta kumbhak and bahaya kumbhak. When you do kumbhak, that time you stop breathing, so that time the oxygen and your body oxygen becomes less. So that is why people say that if you remove this kumbhak, you do only this purak and rechak, then it's not a problem. So only thing is you should not do it for very long time, whatever feel you are feeling comfortable. So asana also, whatever asana you are comfortable with. Don't do it when you have you start you have, because already your bones are like have become hard. So modify the things, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. Pratyahar, dharana, samadhi, because they are mental exercises, I think everyone can do it. In fact, modern times people neglect this meditation, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. There is a scientific study which says that in modern times, because of our TV and computers and other things, the audio visual media, the attention span and the concentration span, that has decreased. And there is no reason it should have happened. People should actually try to practice deep thinking, practice concentration all the time. Usually, for example, I can just mention that our once some parent came and asked ki, how this concentration can be practiced for his kid. Then I asked him, why this concentration? You don't need concentration or what? Then actually this is a common thing. No? So you need concentration only for school kids because they have to give exams. Once you pass the exams, you don't need concentration, meditation, anything. But as a spiritual person, we need this concentration, meditation throughout our life. So that is why it is a way of living. So everyone actually, they have to change how they look at themselves, they look at world, and they look at life itself. So these things need to be done. So control of mind, control of Raj Yoga is all about control of mind. So even if you don't do the anta things Bahaya, first four steps are Bahaya steps, and antar the next four are anta steps. So Bahaya steps you can actually remove except for our character transformation. So yam and yam you should do. But asan pranayam you can do as little as possible according to your condition. You should do something, but not need to do to an extreme. That's it.
There is a similar question from Tuhina Debroy from Assam. Is asana and pranayama is asana and pranayama means making ourselves ready for diving into our inner self? As I feel we can go deep into meditation after doing pranayama.
Actually, according to Raja Yoga, yes, because the 8 steps are like that. So 8 steps have to do one after. When you become proficient in the, like for example, third step, you go to fourth step. Then when you become proficient in fourth step, you go to fifth step. So in that way, they did this. They have, so anyway, because you know that while you are walking on the street, you are walking in the market, how can you meditate? So that is why for meditation you have to sit in the your asana, simple asana, sthira sukha asanam only, and then you can meditate. As Sri Ramakrishna said that vane mane kone. So solitude in your mind and in your corner of your house.
There is a little philosophical question from Dr. Partha Kishore Ghosh. In the Gita, 9th chapter, the content is not seeming to be similar with the yoga philosophy of Patanjali. The Gita puts stress in submission to the God, but Patanjali made it as a way of accomplishment of an ambition, that is samadhi. Which path should we consider?
First of all, Bhagavad Gita is not just one path. So Bhagavad Gita talks about everything, talks about Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Prithak Bala Pravadanti, Sankhya Yoga, Prithak Bala Vadanti na. In that shloka, you see the na vipashchita. So there you see two yogas are already mentioned, and actually other yogas are also mentioned. So other yoga, several types of yajna, everything is mentioned. So Bhagavad Gita is not about just one path. It talks about Bhakti Yoga, it talks about Karma Yoga, it talks about Jnana Yoga, and it talks about Vishad Yoga also, which our Thakur also said, ki Vyakulta. By Vyakulta itself you can get that. Actually, in Vedanta, because your real nature is Brahma, there are very few things by doing which you will not attain knowledge. So in our modern Vedanta philosophy, we talk about harmony of paths. Why do we talk about harmony of paths? Because there are several ways to attain the same thing. So we accept that they are different, but it is not a problem. So when we say that Patanjali Yoga is different from such and such a yoga, it's not a problem because both can reach the same goal. So don't worry about that. In fact, Thakur Swamiji said, it's not just it not only you can follow any path, you can mix them. And so in the beginning of Raj Yoga itself, you will see that Swamiji has mentioned that you can actually mix those. So even if your Bhagavad Gita talks about different things, talks about a separate, different way, then Patanjali's yoga, no matter, you can mix them. That is my very strong opinion. In fact, you should mix them, because if you mix several paths, then your understanding increases, and then you can actually save yourself from pitfalls of both. So for example, each path has got some pitfalls. Like for example, Jnana Yoga, and you have Bhakti Yoga, you become emotional. Jnana Yoga, you become very egoistic. Your Karma Yoga, there is a pitfall of attachment. Raj Yoga, you become selfish. So though it is said that in Raj Yoga, the pitfall is Siddhi, but I have not seen people attaining Siddhi. But Raj Yogi people have this problem. They talk about, they always, my time of meditation, my asana, my, what do I eat? So they become very self-conscious and they become very selfish. So that is the problem. When you mix all the yogas, you save yourself from pitfalls. So that is why it is a very strong opinion. You should mix different paths.